So hi, welcome to Karate Without Belts. It's our first go at a podcast. I'm John.
I'm Marty.
Yeah. We are clearly not from the same continent. And yeah, this I guess just kind of came about through just God, what is it, like 2 years of just like back and forth conversations after
Yeah,
kind of not talking to each other for like.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's really. I mean, I think it's kind of funny how any of these things begin. But like we've been doing this for how long?
uh, well, I first met you in 2006 or 7, something like that. So
Yeah,
on and off
2006.
for a long time, and then I made a decision to hide under a rock and research and do some other stuff, sort of on my own, and cut off a lot of people, and you were one of them. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, what is it now? You came back. You came back in a big bad way. You got out of that, and I think we all kind of come and gone from there.
Yeah,
But we've both been doing martial arts. You've been doing martial arts much longer than I have. But the better part of, I don't know, 3 decades.
yeah, 36 years.
Okay, better part of 4 decades.
Yeah,
Much better than me. I'm better part of 2 at this point. So we're getting. I'll get there one day. Don't worry. It'll kill, even if it kills me, right?
yeah.
Definitely. Um, but yeah, that's me. It's a lot of and yeah. That's the dead noise of this.
Well, how about it? How about I add my piece then? So I'm sitting here in the lovely summery day of Tauranga, New Zealand. We're in the North Island. It's probably going on 80 Fahrenheit here at the moment. It's stunning. It's 2 days after Christmas, and I've eaten too much.
Days
Yeah,
after Christmas. So
yeah.
yeah,
Martial arts. Good Lord, where did I start? Taekwondo in the early 80s. Pretty much done every martial art I could find within an hour's drive of where I lived at the time. So I've laid hands on most things. Most common martial arts anyway. Had a bit of a play and a dabble. I'm not an expert, but I've had a go and enjoyed the ride along the way.
yeah, man, like 36 years is nothing to blink at. Seriously. And I know, what is it, from the perspective of an American, is just that we tend to get everything in like large doses and then it gets Americanized, as it were. But I mean, your story is much more interesting, as in you get everything more or less fresh, but you get it in these very small quantities.
Yeah.
And that to me was the most fascinating bit, is that you guys actually have a lot more authenticity than most American, at least probably when I started, had. Probably kind of got watered down as the marketing stuff started, but
Sure.
yeah.
Well, see, we never really had that in New Zealand. That if you roll back to the mid to late 80s, say through to the mid 90s, the whole everyone running around with patches all up the legs of their gi, and it was all about, I've got so many patches and I've done this martial art and that martial art and I've got 12 black belts and all that crap. That never really happened in New Zealand. We might be seeing a little bit of it now, maybe, but it certainly didn't happen to the way it did in the US. I mean, I was part of a group at one point where that kind of thing did happen a little bit,
Yeah.
but we sort of laughed it off pretty quickly. It wasn't authentic. It certainly didn't fit the New Zealand way of life, put it that way.
Well, yeah, it's weird because I think that's also a population thing, because America's got more people, and that way it's easier for people to start acting that way, and advertising. And the older I get, the more I realize advertising affects everything. And I feel like, especially with the rise, I mean, you mentioned the late 80s and early 90s, like that was definitely the rise of like the magazine culture and the direct video culture and all that nonsense.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, that's a different topic for a different guy. But that whole thing is a different topic for a different. I mean, like that gets at the core of it. I mean, I guess I need to do my piece. I've done more or less just karate. I want to say that, and I'm going to use the American karate, not karate as it's supposed to be kind of said, or T as when I really want to get pretentious and have too much aomori. And my wife starts yelling at me to stop it. I don't really know Uchinoguchi. But I mean, yeah, just I've been doing pretty much what the martial art we do for the last under the same name, though under various different people.
Yes.
Wildly, and I've touched wildly. It's wildly.
Hell yes.
But what is it? I've done like a little Tai Chi, the modern art niece kind of flew by with some of those groups, and when I was in Japan, definitely did do some Kyudo and stuff, but that was more. There was a lot of people put a lot of like. I feel like a lot of people, especially from the quote unquote West, even though you're from Asia, we don't really talk about that. But New Zealand and Australia are in Asia, so right? Am I wrong?
I don't know. We always say the Pacific, but anyway,
Asia.
I suppose I've never really thought about that.
Yeah, but like at least from the quote unquote Western perspective, Japanese people take martial arts super seriously, and if they do they take anything else seriously, but not to the nth degree that marketing makes it look like. I hung out with a bunch of people who were like farmers and fishermen and kind of just regular town folk, and they just had a really cool little Kyudo dojo right next to the Board of Education, and they just were retirees shooting arrows and bows like whenever they felt like it.
That's awesome.
And I'm just kind of like, oh, it's like golf. Like it is better than golf.
I'd say better than golf. Yeah.
I don't understand why people have fascination with that. I really don't. But I would like seriously. How much room is taken up by golf courses? Now replace that with a Kyudo range, right? That's like
I think we've just found something to campaign on here.
There we go. Replace golf with archery.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's an opportunity I've never had. To my knowledge, there's no. Oh, there's got to be someone somewhere's got to be doing Kyudo in New Zealand, but I've never seen it. We did have a guy in town. He turned up here a couple of years ago, and he opened a Chinese archery school in a shop that was far too small, in my opinion.
Right.
And then he had an open day, and he said, right, anyone can come along and have a try. And I think if my daughter, she went and had a go, and I'm pretty sure if I get the story right, by the end of the day, the guy had arrows sticking out of every mirror, certificate, painting, pretty much every piece of wall that was at the front of the class, and very few were actually in the target. He didn't last too long. He shut down maybe 6 months after that, so I'm guessing it wasn't a good thing, but yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not. You need to be in an open place to do that. You can't be. You can indoor archery is not. It's the two words that don't go together. But
it can't end well, eh?
I don't understand how that. I mean, darts and drunk people. Another.
That's
something else that probably shouldn't go together, but it does. I guess
that's a foundation of our entire culture, man. Darts and drunk people. Come on.
I suppose. But yeah, I guess I can kind of. I don't know. The bringing Kyudo does remind me of something, and I'll let that kind of lead us into our discussion. Because I remember when I'd gone over to Japan and before I came back, when I was doing Kyudo, I kind of, because I'd done karate for at least at that point, I think I was at the 15-year mark. I had asked, what's the ranking system? What's the style of it? And a bunch of them had said, "Oh, we've been doing Kyudo for like 40 years, or like 25 years, or 35 years, something like that." Like a long time. Since we were in high school, or since we were in college, or since our 20s. and we're talking to retirees. These guys were well into their 50s, 60s, and go as far as say 70s.
Sure.
And they shot like it. Like some of it, I think a lot of it was just a retiree activity, but a lot of them were pros. And they had told me, like, oh yeah, just second degree. I'm second degree black belt. I'm just third degree black belt. I'm like, but you guys have been doing this so long. How have you not been promoted higher? And they're like, oh, we don't feel like going to the mainland, which by the way, I lived on a small island right above Okinawa. We don't feel like going to the mainland and paying all that money. Which is
that makes sense.
Yeah, which goes to say, and I was like, money for what? And they're like, oh yeah, money for money for rank testing. And I'm like, huh. And kind of, I guess that dovetails our discussion to like,
it is an international thing.
It is. Yeah, and I think like Japan's kind of the place where it began. I mean, we talked about karate, and when we think about karate, I mean, like, what's the thing we think of the most?
Well, I mean, first question most people ask you is, what belt are you?
Yeah, and that's...
Find out you do martial arts. Yeah, what Dan grade are you? Huh. Yeah,
what Dan grade?
That's it. Yeah, who's Dan? Did he owe me a pizza?
Yeah. I hope he did.
Yeah.
The guy who drove me to high school.
Actually, as it happens, Dan is. I have 3 Daniels in my dojo, and one in particular makes some of the best sai I've ever seen. But that's another story.
Don't you have a son named Daniel?
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my life is surrounded by Daniel-san.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Think of it that way. But yeah, I mean, it's and this kind of what sparked us talking, like even the title of this podcast, because it's like,
sure,
what?
Well, it's a conversation we have all the time. We're always, well, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. We could be talking about something totally unrelated, and within a couple of hours, somewhere in it, we'll come up with this discussion about rank again.
Yeah,
and we basically say the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, it goes down the drain. So why not get it on? Why not get it on recording and just have it done with, and we'll never bring the subject up again. Of course, it'll never come up again.
Yeah, well, next time we have the discussion, we just play back the podcast.
Hey, there we go. Done.
Something sensible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, what is like? Okay, let's start from the top. So, someone asks you what rank you are. What do you say? How do you feel?
Okay.
And like, I guess what's your? Okay, let's start this with them. What's your feeling about where you are with it, how you started with it, and then where you're at now with it?
Sure. So there was a time back when I was a lot younger, where of course I was quite proud of the fact, and that doesn't mean I'm not proud of what I've achieved now, but.
Right.
We look at it in a different way. And if someone comes up to me now and says, oh, wow, you're into martial arts, what rank are you? I don't turn around and just belt out a rank anymore. I sort of explain it to them. I say, well, I've got black belts. I have black belts in 3 martial arts. And then I sort of explain how they fit together without actually mentioning, where possible, without mentioning an actual dan rank, saying, oh, I have a 1st dan, a 4th dan, and a 6th dan. Forget it. I just sort of say, well, one, I studied classical jiu-jitsu for a very long time, and I got my black belt, and then I moved to another art, which I still study, and in the main, I have a senior rank in the main lineage of that art that I teach. And then as a sideline, I studied and achieved a mid to senior rank in another lineage of the same art. And that's pretty much how I explain it to people these days. I don't sort of make any more noise about it than that, really.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I remember when I was a kid doing martial arts, and I remember I was a white belt, and then the big thing was everyone needs to meet at the school on Friday because you're going to test for a yellow belt. I was like, holy shit, that's going to be the one thing I got to do with my life. And then it kind of like degrades after that. I think, there's a market appeal to that, but.
Oh, man, like you say, that excitement, that passion, that first grading, holy crap! I mean, I can remember clearly to this day, my first ever grading, as if it was yesterday. It was an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And all junior rank gradings for all students should be like that. And I suppose, senior rank and black belt gradings should be like that too, but it's different. By the time you've done 10 or 12 junior rank gradings before you get to your black belt, when you're doing your fourth or fifth black belt grading, it's not quite the same, but it should be. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's definitely, it's like growing up. Like you get, not many church. No, I guess it depends where you live, but it's like graduating from kindergarten as opposed to getting your master's degree. I remember when I actually did get my master's degree. Like I remember just being like, "Yep," and it's done.
Right.
It wasn't really a big thing to me. But I mean,
Sure.
when you get, I remember getting that yellow belt ranking that was a bigger thing,
Yeah.
at least at that time. And I think it's kind of as you get older with it and as you mature more with it, you understand what that really means.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, that's right.
And I think, the best version of it is accomplishment. The best version of it is it's recognition.
Mm-hmm.
The
what I liked about it?
Yeah.
Here's what I liked about yellow belts, or pretty much all colored belts actually, was everything I had to know was written on a piece of paper by someone else, and all I had to do was learn it and get good at it, and then they'd tell me if I was good enough or not. I liked that. That was easy, because this black belt stuff, where I have to work out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to study and how I'm going to teach other people, that's hard, man. I like the easy way. The easy way was fun.
I think most people do. And,
yeah.
But I guess that's what kind of fuels like bigger dojos and stuff like that, is that they have, there's a common phrase of like belt mills, but I mean, at the same time, it's not just like you don't have like blank people coming into there and blank leaving. I mean, they're real people.
Yeah. That's right.
And you can actually form a community, a real good. You can teach these people to actually become martial artists. Then you've done your job.
Yeah.
And if you have to do it through using that, okay, I get that.
Well, it's that conversation we've had before, where there is a happy mix between a commercial dojo, which operates almost like a belt mill, but still teaches high quality martial arts. There has to be a balance that's achievable there. I personally haven't found it, but there's got to be a way that you can get hundreds of people in, teach them really good skills and how to be really good people, and make it easy, make it packaged, but keep the quality and all the essence of the traditional arts. There's got to be a way to do it. Like I say, I haven't worked it out, but yeah,
I don't think
very hard either.
I think not too many people have, and I think it's just where we come down to where it's like the more like mainline martial arts, where it's like Shotokan or Taekwondo or something. It's like you've said this before, where it's like they have a decent package. What comes out of it is kind of whatever, but at least they've got a decent package.
Yeah,
I think for my money, I think it's. You're not gonna get. I don't think you're gonna get hundreds of people, but I think you can get a decent. I mean, there are decent regular school size of 30 people working on the floor at any given time.
Yes.
But that requires strong foundation, having been there a while, having built up a decent teacher base, having reason like for those people to still be there. And I think, what is it? We've been talking, like, some people have been releasing kata and stuff online and whatnot, and others within our art have been like, oh no, how dare they? They're letting the secrets go. And dude,
exactly.
It doesn't matter. They can show they can because most karate styles do that anyway. Most of that's already recorded anyway.
That's right.
It doesn't matter. They're not going to be able to do what Mario Higanoa can do because you don't have that kind of training. Like, you're not training that way. So it doesn't matter what's there. It matters how you're trained. It doesn't matter what the belt, like what the belt or the patches are, right? Like it matters the quality of the training.
Yes.
And you're not going to be able to reveal the quality of the training on a videotape. You're going to be able to show that somebody has good quality, but like, that experience isn't going to be in the bones.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
But I mean, I guess getting back to kind of talking about rank, I mean, rank will always spin into every other conversation and every other conversation from that, so is what it is. But like, I mean, I feel like because Okinawa, like karate's an Okinawan art that was kind of a weird child that was conceived in Okinawa between Chinese boxing, which is essentially like whatever prototype of wushu, of Wing Chun wushu and all that stuff was, and Okinawa, and whatever Okinawa had, which was whatever came in on the boats and whatever was breeding there naturally. Making a lot of kind of, they sound dirtier than it is, but like and then like it got like they got into a custody battle with Japan, and then Japan took it away and put it in new clothes. Yeah. Right. So I mean, I think the only
so did the Koreans, you know.
Yeah. Well,
and then short of it, the Koreans studied karate, be it in Okinawa or Japan. Did their own thing with it, called it Taekwondo, and they seem to have got the mix right somewhere. There's a lot of people who are happy with it.
Well, and I think there's been some people I've talked to where have been like, yeah, it's karate. Like we do the same kata.
But there's plenty of people, who have Taekwondo rank and they call their schools karate, right? That's a common thing in the States. It's something I've noticed. We don't see it a lot out here.
I gotta find it. Oh God. I gotta get this picture up somehow, but there's a school near me that's a Taekwondo school, or it's a Tang Soo Do school, and it says like Korean karate or something like that.
Yep.
And their logo is the Cheshire Cat from the 1950s Disney Alice in Wonderland.
Really?
It's the most surreal thing I've ever seen. I'm just like, how
did I miss something here?
No.
This is an opportunity I missed.
I don't know. I don't know.
I got an idea. I'm changing my dojo logo, man. I'm going to use the Black Knight from Python. That's what I'm going to. Yeah.
That could work.
Yeah. The dojo logo is going to become "Tis but a scratch." That'll do. Yeah.
Somehow, but I mean, but the thing is, the Japanese imported that rank onto there. It came from, it didn't, so many Westerners want to say it's like this ancient traditional thing where they never washed the belts. Like, nah.
Yeah. I'm fairly sure no one was that dirty, right? If the belt got that filthy, you're going to wash it, man. Come on. So, I don't buy that.
No, and maybe it was like the one guy who did that, and probably. Look, there's always got to be the one, right?
Everybody else forms up, and he's that one guy. No, you stand over there. Y'all smell. Yeah.
I mean, I think mainly comes out of the Dai Nippon Buto Kukai, right? Like,
yeah, right.
Most of that comes out. We've had this conversation.
Yeah.
But they was doing the scant research that I did today a little bit about it, was like they were able to legally demarcate the ranks in Japanese martial arts because they were a government program, and then after the war they're like, nah, you're not a government program anymore.
Sure.
So,
but I mean, the idea behind it seemed okay. Let's put everyone on a basis where we can compare to maintain quality. Okay, that sounds fine. The theory sounds good, but it goes horribly wrong when it gets in the hands of I don't know, perhaps less. I don't want to say less honest, but I think you know what I mean. You know, people perhaps without the. I've lost that train of thought completely. Let's not worry about that.
Well, no, I mean,
I think you know where I was going. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's too many. Well, what happened was once they lost their authority, which probably was not. I don't know. I don't know what we want to say about that time, but because during the war and all that, but because essentially because Okinawa after that got cut off from Japan, so
Right.
And a lot of that knowledge, I mean, 75% of the whole land was destroyed.
Yeah.
So whoever was left, I mean, it was more of a desperate attempt to keep that martial art together as much as possible, as opposed to before, where they were just trying to sportify it or make it something for the military to do. So, they became autonomous and were somewhat third generation products of that.
Sure.
Fourth generation probably, but more like it. But then after that, you have the proliferation after post-war of everyone going out with ranks written, and then how long were those guys really out on the bases? What was the really basis for the ranking? And then clearly things got changed once the 70s and 80s rolled around. So
and heaven only knows that in the hands of other people, or as things have developed, rather.
Yeah.
As things have developed, people have got these crazed ideas around black belts.
Oh, God.
And, oh, man. I mean, I'm seeing stuff out here now where, Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys, it takes them a long time to gain a black belt. And I understand, from what I believe, not that I'm anywhere near an expert on that subject, but they can take 7 or 8 years, right, to get their first dan. That's cool. 10 years, maybe more. So now I'm seeing classical jiu-jitsu guys, we take 12 years to get our first dan. Okay, that's cool. Give it a little bit longer, and someone's going to say, we take 20 years to get our first dan. Really? That's fascinating. When I was studying classical jiu-jitsu, it was 6 to 7 years was considered long. And it was almost like the Three Yorkshiremen sketch, right? Where everyone's trying to compare with everybody else about who's got it the worst. Yeah. And it seemed like, I take 7 years to get my black belt. Well, I took 9. Well, I took 12. Well, I took 15 and had to have a leg amputated. And it just seems to be getting worse and worse, stupider and stupider.
It goes one way.
Based on skill, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can understand longer, but we both have experienced the shorter route on that.
Absolutely. And short's not. Well, it's not that short's not the answer. The answer is, if you've got, this is my opinion, if you've got the skill and you can do what's required, if you meet the requirements, so have the rank. Because that's no different to how, for instance, your master's degree was awarded. You demonstrated the skill, and therefore you got the degree for it. So why shouldn't martial arts be the same?
Well, I think it's just it's ultimately because there's no central authority on it anymore. It just becomes whoever the teacher is who's giving it to the student, and I think a recognition on that's fine, but then it shouldn't build up more than that. And it comes down to who's ever the teacher, and then people will say, well, he's not a blah 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 blah. He's not. He's only a 5th dan, giving out 4th dan. How dare he?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then he's got to go feel some obligation to go seek out a 6th dan.
Yeah. Just
because he doesn't have it, and from who? For what?
And that's where I think some of these larger international organizations actually have it right, because they are dictating the quality, and it's all coming from, it's because the Kudo guys would have to go to the mainland to get their next rank. It's because, you want a high rank in, for argument's sake, Shotokan, then chances are you're headed to Japan, let's say, or whatever the case may be. I think that's where there's some value in that. But large organizations are fraught with issues, and it's my experience that the larger the organization, the more watered down the teaching. So therefore you're getting a rank, but it doesn't actually teach you much. I've stood in the room with guys who are higher rank than me and explained to them concepts and ideas about martial arts that they've never seen. And they're saying to me, well, where are you learning this from? I study with a guy in Okinawa. Yeah, maybe you do. I study with a guy who trained with an Okinawan guy, and he taught me this. So, yeah, I don't know. We're back to that thing again. Where's the comparison? Where's the balance, perhaps?
Well, and I think there's also an issue of whether or not the rank is really all that important, and whether or not having that rank, the high rank, necessarily necessitates quality, necessitates even skill. Is just getting that rank. Going back to our imaginary friend, the 5th Dan, looking for the 6th Dan. I mean, people who do that, I don't think necessarily are in the wrong for doing that. I just think they don't need to invest so much time into that.
Sure.
Into that, and it's like it's a kid. It's the analogy of the kid wrested from the Chinese Okinawan kid wrested from custody into Japan, like where they are forced to carry the rank system.
Sure.
Chinese martial arts don't really do that, and then you look at other Japanese martial arts. I mean, yeah, I guess Jiu-Jitsu cares about it. I guess Aikido cares about it.
Yeah.
The other Koryu, not Aikido, like Kenjutsu and Idol and all that, they don't really seem to care about it too much. They just do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the Chinese thing. So here, here's an example of Chinese martial arts and ranking, and this to me, it is probably 100% legit, but it reads as hinky as a hinky thing. So I know a guy who he has a high rank in Chinese martial arts, and his certificate is prominently displayed, and his certificate is signed by 2 other high-ranking Chinese martial artists, which at first glance makes it look legit, really legit. However, if you read the signatures, it's his wife and oldest son. So his wife and oldest son promoted him to his current rank, which is seriously, seriously high. In fact, there's not a hell of a lot higher you can go, to be honest.
Right.
So you look at that, and I have to ask the question, so okay, maybe it was all done with the best of intentions, and I assume it was, and it's all legit, and it's definitely recognised all over the world. People recognise this man at the rank, but I have to say, well, hang on, this is your wife and kid, man. It's a bit of a conflict of interest. How can you sign this off?
Well, yeah, but I mean, is the wife and kid then high ranked to do that, or were they just?
They are lower ranked than he is.
To give him a higher rank. Okay, I follow that, but
like I say, it seems a bit hinky,
Yeah, but I mean,
then there's plenty of examples in history where a panel or a council of people have come together and conferred rank on a single person, and in some cases it's higher than anyone who's in the panel. It's been done before, but it seemed a little weird that it's wife and son. That's a bit weird.
In that case, that is definitely weird. And the thing is, like, who is to decide that?
That's right.
The emperor of the world.
Exactly.
Eventually, we'll have that. But like, a lot of that was like legal ranking anyway.
Sure.
And it used to be a legal document.
Right.
And so now it's not, and no one is too much to care about it. So it kind of ends up as a free-for-all. But I don't think there's anything wrong inherently with that, and that's especially where I don't want to go and just saying, who cares? It doesn't matter, because so many people have like banked so much time into that. But the end result shouldn't be what's around your waist. It's about what your hands and feet and your mind can do.
What can you do? Yeah. What can you do? In fact, maybe even that statement, what can you do, isn't enough or isn't correct. There's plenty of people out there There's plenty of people out there getting on in years who simply can't do anymore. But by God, they can teach other people to do it, and they have done it in the past. So, the really senior ranks, there is definitely that place for recognizing and acknowledging someone's commitment over a long period of time when they aren't capable of doing the physical anymore.
Well, and that's, hey, by the time you're 75 and you're still moving around like you were 25, God bless you. But I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you got to have those people. As the question is that person going? And this gets into larger questions of organization and whatnot, which we'll touch on another day because that's a whole other mess. But can that person display leadership? Which is 9 out of 10. Most schools are going to say once you're black belt, you are now going to be in the rank to lead, not just to do the thing. That's why I think I wrongly got the other day, as Marty will tell you, what difference between Q and Don was. I was looking at the wrong kanji, but I mean, still, that does make sense. One person has permission, one person doesn't have permission.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's an interesting. Actually, you just raised a point there, which gets me thinking, and it might be another podcast topic. You say there, okay, welcome to black belt. Now you're in leadership. How many organisations out there actually provide leadership training? Because I can't think of one, not a single one, that actually.
I got to provide dog training. Yo, dog. You were worried about background noise.
Yeah, I can't think of a single organisation that actually takes a person as a black belt, a young black belt or any age, and puts a requirement on them where they have to learn actual leadership skill, because most of them don't know what leadership is.
Well, and their only avenue for that is teaching, which is not necessarily what everyone is good at, because that's a different skill entirely.
Yes.
Right? So, yeah, I no, that's a good point, and I think that's the pitfall of it is that just because someone ends up becoming a high black belt rank doesn't mean that they can teach or teach well or no. Like there's someone seminar a couple of years ago was trying to remember how to teach a kata, and he literally just said it, blurted it out, and never kind of I like some of our people from the Midwest and in the U.S. who are just very straightforward and honest. Be like, I don't remember how to teach that kata quite right. Mike, come over here. We're gonna work on that. I'm like, yeah. I mean, like, wow. He's not putting up any sort of nonsense about it. And,
but the beauty of that is at least it's honest, for crying out loud.
Yeah, which I mean, that's the biggest thing with once it comes to rank and black belt. People don't want to, because it's so weird, because I've seen it happen where people hide behind the words, they don't hide behind the actions, they just don't do it, and then or they do the actions but they do them for all the wrong reasons.
Oh yes.
And it goes counter to what karate is about.
Sure.
So I guess I want to put this out there where it's like, we both have rank from different stuff. I don't think either of us really are too keen to be like, yeah, this guy gave me this rank. We're not really, we've been around the block with it, but it would, to us, doing the next rank isn't a big thing. But
nope.
Anyone else, hey, if you have a great system and a great group of teachers who are providing that, more power to you.
Yeah, I agree. It's it's been an interesting road where you look at somebody and you get to know them, you become part of their organization, you get quite close with them, and you assess them and go, yeah, this seems to be a decent sort of a person. Yeah. And you're happy to accept rank from them, and it actually feels legit and all the rest. And then situations change, things change, and maybe it's not quite what it was meant to be. And that's happened to me several times, actually.
Yeah.
Even right back in my early Taekwondo days, I thought my Taekwondo instructor actually knew his stuff, even though physically he wasn't capable. He had some medical issues, but he had a family of young kids who were very, very capable. And I thought these guys had their ducks in a row, and they were pretty good. But you sort of sit back and watch for a little while, and the pictures don't match the work. And then I moved and I started studying Goju-Ryu, and I'm doing Goju-Ryu karate, and I'm loving it. It's really good. And all of a sudden, hello, the head instructor for this particular organization, he's just been done for falsifying black belt certificates. He was getting certificates out of Okinawa and changing the names and the ranks on them. And you're like, what? Where, and this comes back to the leadership thing. You're putting these guys, they got high ranks around their waist. They are people who are getting stood up in front of young children and impressionable people.
Yeah.
And they're
not youth necessarily.
Yeah. They're helping to change these people's lives, to forge these people's lives. And then when you get down to the long and short of it, they're as corrupt. Yeah. Like, what is this about? Where's the honesty? Where's the integrity, man? But yeah, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And it's all about who's got the biggest certificate on the wall. It's like, how about you just sort your life out first? Maybe.
Well, and I think this is where it comes down to, like, the belt rank system makes people think they're infallible to that, and then life smacks you in the face, and then no, you're black. It doesn't matter if you're a 12th degree black belt in ninjutsu do-ryu. Like, you still got to pay your taxes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and you still gotta go to the gym. You still gotta work out. That's something that irritates me to death, and I'm no champion, but like, when people think that their rank replaces their need to train.
Yeah.
And that is the death. That is the absolute death of the martial art.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for me for a long time was like, yeah, I'm this degree black belt. I don't need to worry about what I eat. I've got this degree black belt. Three years later. No. I think that's another. Wow, that's a good foundation for a lot of things, but that leads to kind of being like, if you want to do karate, it's not just about showing up and doing kata. It's about it's about a whole life scheduling event, and some people can't do it, and that's fine.
Well, now that raises a good point. Was you're saying that some people can't do it? So this is about rank again.
Yeah.
And I remember several years ago, someone made the point that anyone can earn a black belt. Anyone can earn a black belt. And I went, okay, think about this. Yeah, on the surface, anyone is capable of earning a black belt. And I approach students like that. I got guys who train with me now, been training for 6 or 7 years, and they haven't graded in 4 years because they don't have the capability to pass the rank.
Right.
And I now firmly believe, no, not everyone can earn a black belt. And maybe that was a lesson learnt the hard way, I don't mind saying. There was a few downgrades were issued that maybe shouldn't have been. But, not everyone can earn a black belt. You do have to have a certain level of commitment, a certain level of physical capability. You can't just show up and keep walking through the door and expect that one day someone's going to recognize you for that. Otherwise, you're watering down the grade.
Exactly.
Down what it
means. And this goes back to the teaching thing. How can you expect those people to carry on and teach it, right? Like, I try to, what is it? When I went to study abroad in college, I had a karate club. I graded a guy over the summer, and I actually lived with the guy after when I came back too, and good buddy of mine.
Sure.
Nice enough guy. Probably not the greatest at making friends, but I mean, doesn't make him antisocial. Just kind of kept to himself a little more.
I know that feeling. Yeah.
Don't we all? But then I was like, I went abroad for a term, came back to the club. I'm like, where the hell is everyone? Because the year prior we had like 10, 15 people, and then there was like 4 or 5, like the real regular people. I'm like, come on, what happened? And he's like, it just no one wanted to. I guess nobody likes working out. I'm like, what?
Yeah, there's more to it than that.
What? And but that's the thing. You can't just I think the biggest thing, especially with that, is you've got to really, if you have a lesson you really wanted to pass on and make sure that's indemnified into the next generation, because that's effectively what you're doing with downrank, is that if there's a lesson that you think is so solid, is the thing that keeps you going, and it might not be a thing that keeps other people going, that you need to emphasize that and make that a part of that lesson, whether it's responsibility towards other people, whether it's making sure you teach it exactly like this, and then those people change it and they make it better or they make it different. But if they don't have that passion, if they don't love it, then it's just something that
it's not going to work. Yeah,
it's just golfing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we've already decided needs to be replaced with archery.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah. I mean, it probably causes more problems than it solves, but I think we're stuck with it. But at least for this podcast, we're doing it without belts.
Absolutely, yeah. And so let's look at that. Let's get to the core of it. So yeah. I made some changes in my dojo, I don't know, a few years ago now. Right. And I said to the students, okay, here's your curriculum handbook. This is going to tell you what you need to learn. Gradings are no longer scheduled every 3 months. You will grade when you've learnt and achieved the stuff. And everyone went, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And off we went from there. So 9 months later, hadn't issued a single certificate, not one. Wow. And people are coming up to me and they're going, why aren't we grading? Well, have you learnt the stuff? Have you had it signed off as being approved? Well, no. Well, why? Well, because it's your job to do that. I'm like, well, didn't we have this discussion where I was putting it back on you? I'm going to teach you the stuff and make sure you're good at it, but you actually have to come to the party. You have to bring your stuff to me and say, I think this should be signed off. And people didn't get that. They don't get it.
Yeah.
And I still run my dojo to that way to some extent. And people will train 3 or 4 months never bringing a handbook to class, and then I'll say to them, you should bring a handbook sometime soon. We could actually do something with this. And they'll bring it in and sign a couple of things off or whatever, and then it'll disappear for another 3 or 4 months, and then it'll come back. And people just, I don't know, maybe I'm different, but to me, I would see that list as there's the things I have to achieve, so let's get the hell on with it, do it. So I don't know, and that's my experience. It's not quite karate without belts, but it's perhaps belts without structure, almost.
Well, no, it's structure without structure. I think it's different. It's structure without nonsense. Like you're not setting a goal for them. Like, oh, get it done by this time. You're getting it done because the next thing is going to is going to lead to B. Because the single block they do when they're starting as a white belt is going to be the same single block they're doing in the kata they do for their black belt test.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So there's the connection right there.
Yeah. But the question is, do people need a structured, timely calendar day set, big X on the date? Here's when you're grading every 3 months, every year in order to keep them moving? Or do we just need a different type of student? Which one is it? And I haven't worked that out yet.
I think having a time isn't bad. I personally don't think it's bad because it sometimes you got to put a fire under people to get them rolling. But sure. Then the other issue becomes though, it's like for our guiding principles and dojo kun, I remember going back to my days when I was teaching in college, I would step into the boys' changing room, otherwise known as Ben's dorm, and they would be practicing saying it with each other. I'm like, guys, this isn't a test. I mean, this is a test, but this isn't like the calculus test you took last Friday.
Sure.
This is something we're going to be doing every night. So you should have already learned this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's a balance there. I think you need to have. I think having a time when you can test, but not necessarily. I think a balance could be like you have a get together time that you can test, but you don't call it testing. You call it like a Saturday train-a-thon or something like that, right? And then you just spring it on them and like, all right, who's ready?
Yeah.
And then that way, everyone's on the floor training. You've covered everything that day. Are they really ready after the fact? So. And
that brings me to another one. I heard about a guy who ran his jiu-jitsu class like this. You would just come along and train, and then one day when you're good enough, he will present you with a belt. And that's how everyone progressed to black belt. There were no formal curriculum. There was no formal gradings. It just happened out of the blue somewhere. You'd get a belt. And on the surface, that sounds like it almost sounds like the purest way to do it. It's the right way to do it.
Right.
But from the point of view of a student, particularly a Western student who's used to structure and curriculums and defined times and dates, deadlines, and things, it's near impossible for them to manage. But the uncertainty of it is unhinging.
I mean, from the Japanese perspective, I don't think that to me doesn't even sound like that would be Japanese. I think that's just how he ran it, because I think, and even then, I think from a student, it depends on the student, it depends on the teacher, but I think to a lot of degrees that kind of just takes the weight off. It's like you're going to get this when you're ready, not when this time's going to be, not when what check mark has happened, just when you're ready. Yeah. So if you come and train, you'll get it. But if you don't come and train, you don't get it.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, it just it depends on the student and it depends on the teacher ultimately. You can structure it either way, I think. But yeah, I've heard both cases, and you've got to find a decent middle ground there, I feel. So. Yeah. But I think what is it? I think we can kind of wrap up there. I think that wouldn't be too bad. But just to kind of end off, I think like, hey, whether or not you're the 12th degree Goju Nippon Bujutsukai Senpai Shogunate of the ninjutsu Foot Clan, or if you're just walking into a dojo for the first time and don't have a bell around your waist, I mean, people just need to keep working and not worry about it. It happens when it happens. It happens as often as it does. They shouldn't let it get in between them and training. And how many times have we seen that happen? How many times that happened with us?
Yeah.
So
when you get down to it, the belt does not reflect your ability to stay alive in a real life protection encounter. It has no meaning on it whatsoever. It doesn't matter if you are aforementioned 12th degree, etc., etc. If someone jumps you from behind when you're not expecting it and hits you with a crowbar, you're going down, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And that's lost. I think that's lost in a lot of training too. Is the simple reality. You can practice anything you want, wear any belt you want. When a guy comes up behind you and hits you in the back of the head with a crowbar, you're falling down. And it doesn't matter who you are. Yeah.
No, it does not. Well, I think we'll call it there for today. And I hope people enjoyed listening to this.
Yeah.
Dog and all.
Rambling mess that it was, but let's see if it gets better on the next ones maybe.
We'll see. All right.
All right.
Later, guys.
Cheers.